Hi everyone, welcome to episode 4 of my betting diary. I'm going to keep this one a bit more brief just because I've been a bit silly and decided to record this during the peak Sunday afternoon, peak weekend afternoon, and there'll probably be quite a few bets firing in and I don't want to miss too many. So yeah, I'll just have a sort of brief overview of everything and then check out. So for the tennis, it's been another decent enough week. Shame about the pre-match ones on the Friday. I felt like I probably made a few mistakes with the overs on Kashanov, and just I think that was the kind of day which I had too many times last year. And if I'm gonna get 100 points plus, which is the target for this season, those are the kind of ones that I do need to cut out. But equally very happy to just be very picky with all markets bets this season. Not going to rush them or force any ones like that, but hit a really nice 2-1 on Bonaventure, and also just having the live bets being really decent strike rate so far. Opposed to Kari a couple of times. We're up already about 6 points on the live bets, I think. So overall about close to 15 points officially on all bot bets for my service. Only about 3 points of them are from the high limits because of that Friday morning essentially. But yeah, very aside from that one morning where I sent a few poor pre-match bets, I'm still very content with how I'm doing. There wasn't so much closing line value this week, but the problem is, for example, on a bet like Shapovalov against Djokovic plus 4.5 games, you just get you get the money coming on, and on even on like Medvedev overs when you're opposing a player like that. Also Berrettini thus Tsitsipas. I think you can't really pay too much attention to closing line value on those plays because the market always will put money. It was so regular that the market will want to put money on the big names right in the last hour or so. So it doesn't really matter what the logic is. I feel like sometimes it will just be if Djokovic is 1.8 an hour before, he might be 1.7 an hour later, and it's far more likely to go that way than for the money to go in on the other player. So I'm not too fussed about closing line value in situations like that where I'm opposing Djokovic or opposing a far bigger name player or a market favourite compared to the player we're looking to back in that situation. So for the new features, like always, there's generally been a few coming in each week. A nice one that we're looking at doing the editing bets feature next week, but we're also looking at making it easier for live bets to. There's often scenarios where a subscriber will message me and be like, I haven't got this bet, I haven't placed the bet. And then at the moment, all I can do really is adjust points manually after, and I can't adjust for decimals. And it means that the stats on the bot often don't quite reflect exactly what you've achieved, which isn't ideal if you're using the bot as a way of consolidating your spreadsheet and making sure everything matches up. So next weekend, my brother should have a way of allowing me to basically have a user base of all the bets, and for each individual account, what this will allow me to do is just void or cancel bets that you haven't been able to place, particularly for the live bets. This is meant to be for. So then it's not going to have any kind of weird distortions in your points or anything like that. So that'll be quite a nice thing. And obviously the editing bets feature, like I've got to figure out how that might work in terms of practicality, but it's definitely something that's going to be available fairly soon. So a review of the whole portfolio. It was a pretty decent week. Like yesterday was the only sort of the first sort of quite bad day of the year in terms of just the points. It was -10. Got I got pretty unlucky because I missed, I think, it was either 2 or 3 of Bonds' winners. Like, typically I've missed about 5 bets from the whole portfolio, and 4 of them have been winners. So yeah, it doesn't matter too much. And the fact that the overall ROI of all the bets I've taken so far is above 10%, I think it's 12-13%, is, you know, very, very solid to start. Like, I'm really thinking for the long term, like, I'd be happy with sort of an 8% ROI for the portfolio as a whole. Like, maybe we can go higher, but I don't want to be greedy with that. Like, I'd certainly, if you gave me a 7% figure at the end of the year, it's going to be a very decent one. So yeah, like, happy with how it's gone. This week was an ROI of 6%. Like, there's a lot of bets like in play at the moment, but at the time of recording, we're up sort of £155, which is sort of like the equivalent of 6.5 points, or just over 6 points. And yeah, Bonds has made a good start to his bets generally. Sort of, I think he's ROI is probably close to 30% already. So that's going just how I was expecting and hoping so far. So yeah, so far so good. I'm not really going to go too much into performance or anything of individual services for quite a while, because, you know, it's very short term. There's so much variance at this point. It's just a case of if something is there to discuss, then I will. Jorge's just made a few sort of the bot getting used to it, and might have selected the wrong option a couple of times. So just sort of being patient with things like that. With sort of how he tipped it today was how it will be moving forward with the Portugal bets. It will be kind of like, we want it to be an hour in advance, and to hopefully have sort of like €300 liquidity where possible. They are obviously quite thin markets, and obviously everyone betting here generally is betting with decent stakes, so there's no real getting around the fact that the prices will still be a bit sensitive, and there still might not be a whole amount of time to get those bets on. So that is why we've created the group. So if you can follow them, like I can, I'm obviously around most of the time, so I can bet these, and they're obviously higher ROI. So if you can bet them, you can. If you can't, or find that you're not able to place the bets because you're not getting enough notice, you can always leave that group. But in terms of the setup, I think it's sort of where we want it now. Yeah, just to finish off then, next week is a pre-slam week, but for tennis, but equally it's also a week where the other pre-slams I hate. Like, it's I don't like betting them at all, because I feel like motivation is questionable a lot of the time. But the thing about the Australian Open week is that not many of the players have got many matches under their belt. They might have only 1 or 2 or just a few. So there is incentive to do well, just because it's match sharpness, and you don't want to be going into the Australian Open too cold. Whereas the other slams, you know, you've often got a month or so of tennis before the slam, so everyone's kind of well prepared, and that warm-up week isn't that important. And also just the fact it's a new season. I think a lot of players, you know, sort of get worn down by a season, or more likely to have letdown weeks as it progresses. Whereas a week before a slam, I feel it's one where for this slam particularly, it's one where you can sort of be quite fresh still, and there's not really any physical ailments or stuff like that, and you're more likely to go all out. So it's not a week where I'm gonna particularly hold back on, but equally I want to, of course, be very selective with the bets I'm choosing as well. So yeah, there's 3 tournaments I'm going to focus on, and those are the ATP and WTA Adelaide and ATP Auckland. The reason why this has actually worked out quite nicely is that I feel like the last week where you had Adelaide 1, so it's just the second edition at the same venue, is perfect when that happens, because I've now got a better idea of quite precise court conditions, what to look out for. Like in Auckland, it's worth checking the weather every day because it's super windy at times or rainy, and they go indoors, and that completely changes the dynamic of the matches. So I'm sort of feel like I'm quite prepared for this week ahead. So looking forward to seeing how that goes, and hopefully kind of building on the start we've had to the season. So yeah, gonna check out now, and yeah, probably next week it might be another one that could be more brief, just for the fact it's the Australian Open the week after, and there's probably going to be a ton of analysis that I'm going to have to do for that. So yeah, wishing everyone a good week, and check in soon.